All right. Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the premier edition of the New Age Finance and Accounting Summit organized by Khaleej Times. In response to the changing roles of CFOs in the region and with deep-rooted research on the industry, the virtual summit will focus on business transformation rooted through advanced technologies, cultural transformation after the pandemic, impact of RPA, digital transformation, business intelligence, and so much more. I would like to thank our official RPA partner, Blue Prism, exclusive business intelligence partners, MicroStrategy, strategic partner, SAP Concur, and silver sponsor, Oracle, for showing massive trust in our capabilities. So without further ado, let's begin our first session for the day. The first session, that is the fireside chat with Mr. Paolo LoMonaco, the Group CFO of Chalhoub Group. Paolo is the Group CFO for Chalhoub with brands like Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, Sephora, amongst many others. In this current role, he is also responsible for a number of other support functions, including supply chain procurement, logistics, and administration. He's worked with brands like Nestle, Hertz, Fiat Group, Coca-Cola. So let's hear it from Paolo.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Really a pleasure to be with you today.
Hello, Paolo. Thank you very much for being on the platform with us. I know CFOs are extremely busy these days, so I would not take a lot of your time. Can you just give me a brief about yourself, please?
Well, yeah, as you said, I had a good experience in FMCG companies and automotive, mostly in London. I spent 10 years in that city. I love it a lot. My daughter there, and we spent 10 years there. I grew up in Italy. I'm Italian. I'm very proud of my country. And I moved to London early 2000 for a number of roles, mostly in internal audit. And then I moved into finance, operational finance, and a lot of variety in commercial finance, etc. I'm very happy to be here with you. I mean, I would say I'm a qualified accountant, just a complete profile, and a master's in London Business School.
All right, great. So, Paolo, I have a couple of questions for you. The first one is, what is the importance of technology to managing finance functions in any organization?
Well, I think we're quickly realizing it's becoming crucial, getting more and more important by the day. I mean, technology is basically supporting a complete transformation of the finance operation model and also the organization of finance. Yeah. Technology is basically driving more and more new service delivery models and robots, RPA solution, algorithms. That is all part of the meetings are joining and augmenting the finance workforce. This is basically driving a change in the role of finance, and reporting operation are largely getting more and more automated. Company like also in Chalhoub are continuously evaluating, and this is part of our continuous efforts, the benefits of automation and augmented workforce versus more traditional offshoring and outsourcing opportunities. But what is sure is that technology disruption will certainly result in a leaner finance organization and a very different finance talent profile. I think this is a crucial point, and I think from an HR side, because of the technology development, finance team will need professionals which basically know how to build and connect systems. I mean, I would not expect all of them will be traditional, let me say, employees on a company as part of the stable workforce. Yes, surely we will have our stable employee force, but I also expect we'll go much more into a hybrid workforce. Some gig workers, some will be on the balance sheet employees, and will be off the balance sheet employees. Yeah, with much more flexible organization to collaborate between finance and data scientists. For example, in Chalhoub, we are setting up what we call it a hub and spoke model. Yeah, so a new BI and data analytics team is sitting in the corporate finance, which we call the hub, which is responsible for creating all the new automated centralized reporting process and financial operational dashboards. This will be utilized and deployed for all the spokes, all the business that you were referring before in terms of the brand, utilizing centralized dashboards. So basically, we will give managers, and we are already giving managers much more self-service tools for financial reporting. And all this also aiming at reducing the reporting cycle by more than 10 days. I mean, at the end of my technology will, with what we have in mind is that with tools like Google BigQuery, we will move into real-time closing in the future. So the traditional closing process will also be will be released. So in fact, in a nutshell, we expect that technology is driving a big, deep transformation in organization, I would say.
Superb. Thank you. Thank you. And what are the characteristics of a successful company from a finance perspective?
Again, I think, as I mentioned before, first and foremost, I think finance talent. We talk in technology, and it's a pleasure. It's very interesting topics. But for me, there is no technology progress without human capital, without the talents capable of setting the platforms and exploit the augmented tech capabilities. So anything in any business all starts and finish with the quality of the human resources. Having the right talent team, engaged teams, be able to drive the technology to the technology landscape. So that's the reason why in Chalhoub we are investing so much in cultural transformation. We're pushing for all the elements of inclusion, servant leadership. And when it comes to finance, a lot of energy is being invested as we speak in revisiting our finance competency framework. So we define the finance on the future job description, much stronger elements in terms of, let me say, business partnering, influencing skills, obviously, together with digital knowledge. So we are also piloting, for example, in finance, a much more advanced HR tech platform, which allow us to manage in a much more actual way the competency framework and the career progression of our teams from a learning and development and individual development plan perspective. So in general, I'm very proud of our finance team. We built it in the last 5 years, very engaged, driven, open-minded towards technology transformation. And it's very important to stress for me that the great majority of the senior leader of the finance team in Chalhoub have been grown internally, which is basically testament of our commitment to grow the finance talents as part of the group transformation. So for me, that's very important key element of a successful, let me say, finance company. And the second one I would like to briefly mention, I think is quite obvious, but it's good to be reiterated, is the process organization. Reality is becoming more and more complex, which means no decision can be taken by any individual. So you need to make sure that you facilitate a very effective cross-functional collaboration among the teams, which means that there are a lot of stakeholders around the table to take a decision. So in order to be an effective organization, I would say from the finance perspective, you need to have clear design process with clear responsibility and KPIs for all the various stakeholders, because on one side, quick decision cannot come at the detriment of the ROI of the investment from a finance perspective. On the other side, we cannot have a finance bureaucracy, let me say, blocking agile decision-making process. So the process, the well-structured process definition and lean process definition, I think it's very important. And you think about, again, the complexity around the tech investment process and the amount of stakeholder around between tech team, finance, commercial, procurement, etc. It becomes very complex to manage if you don't have very structured processes.
All right. Okay. All right. That is very insightful. Now, Paolo, can you tell us your favorite trend? There are many trends going on right now. Can you tell us your particular favorite trend when it comes to digital transformation?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, there are so many. Sometimes it's also difficult to orientate and prioritize. But I think as some we mentioned before, for me, there is a clear direction in terms of what I call it the finance factory, yeah, which is a bit of replication of what we saw happening in manufacturing environment many, many years ago. So transactions are becoming touchless, automation, blockchain are getting deeper into the finance operation, as we said before. So all the rule-based processes will basically be automated. Yeah. So we see that let me say this human middleware, yeah, in the middle among systems, connecting systems, that role is basically disappearing because the robotic process automation are basically replacing what human beings were doing on a manual basis, and basically doing what traditional automation has done in manufacturing before. Yeah? So all this is happening as a one big trend, which means that the finance will need to have a new role, which is the second. I mean, the two things are strictly interconnected. Yeah. Because for me, what's very, very important to state is that it's not because of the first trend that finance or the technology disruption basically will not result in finance function in any form or shape disappearing. Yeah? We are in fact in the need of transformation. Yes, the operational finance, the rule-based processes will be much leaner and will be lower headcount. Yeah. On the other side, we need to double down on our capability as a finance function to grant business insights, partnering, to drive action and decision-making processes. Why I was referring before and our revision of the competency framework to work toward much more of this kind of skill set. So there is a need of revision of the skill set of the finance teams, which comes as a consequence of the finance factory. I would say, I would mention before. On the other side, to be on a positive note, there are also other tools, for example, the predictive modeling tool, which if correctly used by the finance team, can increase the capacity, augment the capacity of the finance team to provide strategic support and advice. So I see a transformation of finance into much more of a, let me say, command center, business command service centers, which can support the business to take better strategic decision. Yeah. Again, this will require significant transformation in the skill set of the traditional finance teams. So that's the second one. So we said finance factory, we talk about changing the role of finance. There are two ones, I think, which are quite obvious on the making. One is the change in financial cycles. Yeah. So the traditional close, yeah, this periodic close, this batch information transfer, all this becoming more of an older and older era. Yeah. I expect that we'll be in a position to report and forecast in real time, more and more. Yeah. So all the elements of sales, cash, inventories, we will be able to give real-time information to business to take much more quick decisions than in traditional, say, organization with reporting, and we report on day 5 or day 10, etc. Yeah. So this is another clear trend with the traditional reporting cycles becoming much less relevant than in the past. Last but not least, I would say the self-service environment. Before I mentioned the fact that finance team is working on visual dashboard for financial reporting. This basically is another semi-difficult transformation for finance, because one of the key roles of traditional job part of the job description is for finance to take the hands of the commercial teams and to explain to them things. Yeah. Tomorrow we will have dashboard today, basically, because it's already in place. The commercial teams will push a Power BI API, they will filter the information that they need. They don't need any finance to hold their hands, yeah, and to tell them how the month has gone and how the margin is moving, etc. They can do everything themselves without any specific knowledge of the ERP system or anything, which used to be the territory of the finance team. All this data reporting in Excel and complex long download from ERP, all this stuff is gone. The digital assistant are basically filling the role of the traditional business analyst. So again, what will remain for finance? Yeah, what I said before, for finance will remain the capability of actually designing such dashboards, of capturing the requirement of the business to make sure that the system are configured in a way that capture this information in an accurate way, and then being able to activate the business support. Yeah? But this change, this shift is also relevant to keep in mind. Yeah? So what I call it self-service finance is getting more and more frequent.
All right. Wow. Okay. So follow up to this, the conversation that we just. Can you give me an example or a couple of things that how is the finance function different from when you started? You have over 20 years or probably more years of experience. So some things that were very relevant when you started and that is absolutely changed right now.
Well, I mean, back to the conversation we were having, I mean, what was finance 20 years ago, but I would say only 10 years ago, was very much of a function in charge of making sure that the reporting of financial performance was accurate as much as possible and timely, was very much of a backward looking function. So very much looking into what did happen and trying to explain why it did happen in that way. But the forward looking was very limited. Very manual intensive operation, a lot of Excel. I mean, I remember in my old days, I was spending days and nights, compiling Excel files. I mean, the traditional finance guy was an Excel guru, who know all the things, the Excel, etc. If you compare and then the business support part was a very limited percentage of the time spent by traditional finance. Yes, there were roles which are more commercial oriented for sure, but when you compare the total finance population and the payroll of finance as a percentage, that part was quite limited. And you compare with today or where we are heading to, we say that traditional part will shrink and shrink and shrink, and we will need to invest into much more in business intelligence teams, data analytics teams, coordinating with data scientists, to give predictive vision of the future, so that we can support really business to take the right strategic decision for the future. So the basic hygienic part of reporting what happened, the system will take care of. We will reduce significantly, and we are already doing our payroll investment in that part, because at the side, the finance factory will take care of it.
Right. Now, Paolo, the last question from my side, then we will move on to question and answer from the audience, is what do you think has been the biggest positive that of the current scenario that the world is facing?
Well, a good question. I think obviously the COVID has created a lot of business pressure. We have been all under mega drop in sales with consumer confidence gone, etc. I think, as always in life, the pressure has increased the sense of urgency. So what I would say from a positive note, I saw in the region, for example, a lot of companies accelerating in cultural transformation, trying to become more agile and to offer better solution for work-life balance of people. For example, we were debating for a long time about flexible remote working policy. We piloted this in 2019 before COVID, thanks God, in accounting team, and we were debating if to extend, not, and there was a lot of cultural resistance. But the pandemic has forced us to revisit and accelerate certain decision making process, which were kind of a bit stuck, and we were a bit scary of pushing forward. And now we have a complete group policy with flexible working. Every team is organized as it is better from that sense in terms of flexible. We even have the possibility to working from another country for a certain period of time. So we are basically giving more flexibility to our workforce. On the other side, I think again back to the sense of urgency. I feel that again because the pandemic has created so much more pressure on the financials of the company. This is also increased the sense of urgency when it comes to accelerating transformation and digital transformation and technology transformation, because it's become unavoidable, and trying to get as much as possible closer to customer through technology, and also obviously trying to be as efficient as possible using technology. Yeah? So these trends have been accelerated. Recently, our group CEO, Chalhoub, commented that the group achieved e-commerce sales this year, which were originally planned to be achieved in 2025. Yeah? And that is because obviously of the specific situation of the social distancing when it comes to retailing because of the pandemic. Yeah. So this has created the opportunity for the group to accelerate transformation, for example, and we are doing the same for a number of other functions, from last mile, B2C fulfillment, order management system, all that facilitating our e-commerce acceleration. But what is one thing I would like to say on this, on the finance part specific, and this most of the audience here is finance. When we all started unfortunately, in end of February, early March, I said to my team that in spite of the humanitarian and social and business negative impact this obviously will have, and not a lot we could do about it, from a finance perspective, there has been probably never a better time for the finance community to get prominence in the organization, because of all the trends and a lot of basically refocusing on optimizing the cash profitability, streamlining processes, improving data quality set. I mean, if you think about it, who better than finance in any organization can deliver on these obvious say priorities of any business in the world? Yeah. So a joke that I normally say to my team is that I got more meeting with the CEO Chalhoub in the last 4 months than I had in the previous 4 years. Yeah, and that's because the prominence that the accounting, finance, treasury teams are getting into the business because of these trends. We are the ones which are under pressure to deliver, but also we are under the spotlight. So if we can deliver on these things, it's obviously showing and confirming the value that the finance team can deliver in any organization. So I would really like to finish this question saying that we to remain positive on the what's happening around us from a finance perspective. I think there is a great time for great finance people because there is a lot of value that we can drive in the organizations, and we are ideally placed as a skill set to be able to drive. So an important thing for me is for everybody to invest in technological know-how and in this, say, partnering relationship skill to sit with business, because there is a lot we can do to support business in this tough time. So I think from a finance point of view, strictly from a finance point of view, it's probably a great time. That I feel to say.
All right. Thanks, Paolo. We'll move on to we have some very interesting questions. We'll move on to the questions. I'll just read them to you.
Yes, please.
All right. So someone has written here, recently I attended a seminar on risk automation poses to the field of accounting, and in the near future, accounting may be, just hold on 1 second. Yes, please. So accounting may be completely automated, hence to pursue in this line could be meaningless. What are your thoughts on this? And in regards to the better choice, would be accounting or finance for you, or some other field?
Yeah, well, I think we need to be honest to ourselves. Yeah, I mean, there will be, as you say, rule-based task, which RPA tools are progressively getting better because technology is evolving on one side, and also I have mentioned that I think it's pretty obvious the cost of technology is dropping very, very rapidly. So when you do your business case and benchmarking, and you have RPA tools, which are obviously capable of working 24 hours, 365 days a year, it becomes very difficult to justify cost of manual manpower on the other side when comparing with the possibility from RPA technologies. So this doesn't mean for me that the accounting function will disappear. We'll still have need of very good accountants, because we will certain high-level task of accounting which will remain. Think about consolidating statutory VAT or tax expertise, relationship with the external auditors, advice on process, and also advice on how to set up RPA tools, etc. This cannot be done by IT team in isolation. We need the expertise of very good accounting teams to set up properly the robots, etc. And I must say, setting up is not good enough, because then you need to be fine-tuning. Yeah, so you need to have that expertise. But also the accounting function will transform, which I think reduce in numbers, and probably enhance in quality again. To respond to the question between accounting and finance, I think finance, and again, traditional finance reporting will reduce, and will move to much more of a business partner.
All right. Thanks, Paolo. The next question is, how do you forecast cash flows or predict for the next 6 months?
At this time, I think it's very, very difficult. Yeah, having a magic ball of we will have a second wave, we will not have a second wave. What's going to happen? Balls will be closed, not will be closed. When yes, it's way, not wait, etc., etc. We have the pure forecast in terms of scenarios, at least in our group, is not left purely with finance. We have a strategy office which is working of all the macroeconomics, so it's more of a office of studies looking at the macroeconomic trends, GDP, etc., tourism, all the elements which are driving the economy, and then it's done it in collaboration with the finance team. We normally work on scenario analysis, so we have a baseline, and then we work on worst and best, and obviously starting from this, which is very much top line, so talking about sales, we develop the cash flows. Cash flows in the group are still a manual process, so we are in the process again as a part of our digital transformation to move all our financial planning into Hyperion, including the cash flow elements.
All right, super. We have another very interesting question. We have some very interesting questions, but I'll take this one. Will this handle the complexity and remove the creativity of accountants?
Well, I'm not sure I really want accountants to be very creative. Yeah, it's pretty much of a rule-based function like IFRS. I think if the question is, it will reduce the value adding, no. In fact, I think it will need to focus mind on the value adding. So I really would like to think that robots are taking care of the basic bread and butter, repetitive, let me say, boring elements of things like booking an invoice. Is not where you want to employ a qualified accountant. You want an OCR tool and RPA to do the process for you. So the invoice is there. But to do analysis on how the payment terms are moving, or what's happening to our working capital, or etc., yes, there is where I want accountants to spend their time. So in fact, it should be the reverse. Yeah, is where the good minds should focus rather than, without maybe being too creative. But okay.
Perfect. Very nice. One more question. What are the potential risks we can foresee in the automation from company point of view?
Yeah, well, I think there is an element of, let me say, robustness of the solution. Yeah, we don't really want to rely on a weak solution, and then possibly reducing our manpower in the expectation that the solution will solve for it, and then find ourselves without the manpower and without the solution working. Yeah, right. So we really need to have making sure that the solution is very much tested and robust. That's, I think, it's the most single important point. There is an element of security, access and data control. There, we need to make sure that there is no security breach of information, because the tool will manage and handle more and more of information, data, and think about customer data, for example, if you don't think strictly about accounting always, and there will be elements of security that needs to be built into this. I think with complexity, for example, we've seen increasing our e-commerce sales percentage. Normally, e-commerce do not sit on the same bread and butter platforms that a traditional brick and mortar business sits in terms of the ERP. So there is an all element of data integrity, data between the e-commerce platforms and the mainframe ERP, which needs to be handled properly by the finance teams. So that's, I think, also very important.
All right. I think we have 1 minute left, so we can take one question. It will be our last question, a very, very quick one. Okay. I have this one very interesting question here. Do you have any specific financial system in mind which we can work with? Automation from inception of accounting transaction to the same set of data used for group reporting as per IFRS. I think it's difficult to answer this question.
I'm not sure I understood. Can you repeat the question?
Do you have any specific financial system in mind which we can work with?
Yeah.
Automation from inception of accounting transaction.
Yeah.
The same set of data is used for group reporting as per IFRS.
Okay. Well, basically, what we're doing in our group is that we have the entire accounting processes managed and closing managed through Oracle system. Yeah. What we have and then from there we have created a legacy in-house tool to manage all the transaction process in accounting, because we have an intercompany billing to the various divisions for the accounting. So it's activity-based costing based on individual processes. And all this the tool does is to monitor the full in a visual. So we have all the screens here in the office with all processes are managed by individual accountant against targets. Okay. Information is basically the individual transaction accounting the question is referring to is monitored through that visual tool that was built in-house by our accounting team and center of excellence. And then the data is migrated to the Hyperion platform. The Hyperion platform is utilized, so basically it's synchronized, there is no human touch. And the Hyperion platform is what is feeding the Power BI dashboard. They use utilization from a business decision making. So information flows, can be done. I mean, it's a quite good work, but I think it's worth to do it.
All right. Paolo, we have a lot of questions, but I think we'll have to come back and answer those questions online. Thank you for such a refreshing and informative start to the summit. And thank you everyone for attending. I would now request all the attendees to join the next session on driving digital transformation through business intelligence by MicroStrategy. I thank you once again, Paolo.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you. Thank you for asking questions. See you soon.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.